Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us with the Corpus Christi Crónica. This is Política Talk, and today we have our candidate from Nueces County Sheriff's Office, David Torres. David Torres, how are you doing today?
Great. Thank you, Eric.
Okay, now just tell us a little bit about yourself. What is your background?
My background is that I graduated from college here in Corpus Christi. I decided to stay here. I had an opportunity to go to several law enforcement agencies. I always wanted to be in law enforcement. And I started very young with CCPD, and I ended up going up to detective right away, and I was a detective. Then I became a lieutenant. I went to narcotics and vice. Then afterwards I became a captain. I was a captain for 10 years, in charge of different units, budgets and disciplinary issues. Then I became a commander for 13 years, and the same thing. Now I was in command of different divisions throughout the whole department, and it's been a great ride. I loved it. I ended up retiring in 2011, and my mother was a little bit ill, but I had planned to be with her when she passed away. She was 98 years old, so I wanted to be there with her when she passed, and I was there with her, and I would never change that. That's the reason I left, and I ended up being there.
Are you from? Are you born and raised in Corpus Christi?
No, I was born actually in Brownsville, Texas.
Okay, that's the Valley.
That is the Valley.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, what made you want to run for Nueces County Sheriff, and why now?
Why now? That's a good question, Eric. You know, in 2012, right after I retired, I really wanted to run for sheriff, but a very good friend of mine by the name of Isaac Valencia ran, and he was very excited about running. He had a very good chance of winning, and I supported him. And since he's a friend, I did not want to go against him. You go forward to 2016, then another very good friend of mine, Larry Olivas, ran, and he asked me if I would help him. Of course. And I was thinking of running in 2016, but again, you know, the circumstances that he wanted to run, you know, I moved to the side, and I did not want to run against him. So he, you know, I supported him. Here comes 4 years later, I contacted both of them to make sure that they were not going to run. They wanted nothing to do with politics, both of them. They personally told me that, and both of them are supporting me. So I decided to put my hat on and run in.
Now, what is your platform for Nueces County Sheriff?
Well, I mean, one of the things, when you look at a platform, you know, you're looking at the department as a whole. And I think one of the things that we want to do as I go in there, you know, we want to upgrade and reform the sheriff's department. You know, you have 3 different components of the sheriff's department, and including the jail. So those are the things that we want to reform, we want to change, we want to enhance, and we want to bring it up to the 21st century department that it should be. And I think that as I talk to so many officers, Eric, we have a very good core of officers there. And I'm very sure that we can bring about that change for the betterment of the Nueces County community.
Now, what do you view as the strengths of the Nueces County Sheriff's Office, and what areas need improvement? And how do you plan to address those areas that need improvement?
Well, the strength is obviously the core officers that they got, the line officers. They got some very good officers. Through thick and thin, they're there. And you know, that says a lot for them. In reference to, you know, some of the things that we want to change, you said?
Yes.
One of the things we want to change, we want to enhance the jail operations. You know, the jail operations has been operated the same way for years. So those are the things that we want to change. I mean, when you're looking at it, how we change things, we break down the whole system itself. When we're looking at everything that is in there, we are looking at to change.
Now, what are some of the challenges right now in the Nueces County Jail that you think that they might be facing?
Well, I think everybody's facing right now in reference to prisons or jail systems in the United States. You know, you're talking about how to manage the COVID. I mean, that's one thing that is impacting jail operations, was impacting prisons across the country, and you know, we see it here. It's but if you follow some CDC guidelines or from the governor's office, those are guidelines that can help us how to manage and contain the virus within a certain area of the county.
So you speak a little bit about the COVID-19 that's probably making some cutbacks there in the jail and getting some of those officers. Some officers in the past couple of months have had to quarantine themselves due to the COVID-19 and testing positive so that they won't spread it within the jail.
That is correct.
Now, considering the fact that the sheriff's office represents a very large department budget in the county, and it requires great coordination between the staff and partnering with other agencies, what experience do you have that makes you qualified to manage this office?
It is when you're looking at the sheriff's department, you're looking at other agencies in Nueces County. And if you look back at my timeline when I did my announcement on September the 14th of 2019, one of the strongest things I said was for me to go to the chiefs of police in the county, not just CCPD, but Aransas Pass, Port Aransas, Bishop, Agua Dulce, Robstown. You have the port. You have two chiefs of police from different universities, and go to them, and then the constables. One of the things I want to do is to bring everybody together, and we want to create, for the first time in the history of Nueces County, our first law enforcement summit. And we want to talk to each other. We want to see how can the sheriff facilitate and help their enforcement. Look, Eric, crime doesn't stop at somebody's set of limits. There's two things that any investigator will tell you that criminals will have, and that is a cell phone and a mode of transportation. And they travel from one side of the county to the other. I said, we have to talk to each other. We have to help each other. And there's going to be some procedures and operational procedures that I can do as a sheriff to facilitate that chief, to facilitate and help that constable. Not to be an obstructionist, but to help them. Tell me what you need from our department to make your job easier, for you to enforce the law in your area. And that's what I'm about.
Now, just speaking about that, since the Nueces County Sheriff's Office had to take many sheriff deputies away from the warrant division, the patrol division, and other divisions to get that manpower to facilitate operations in the jail. Now, how do you feel, or are you concerned about the safety of the rural residents in Nueces County, such as like Banquete, Agua Dulce, and such, because they're not able to answer serious crime calls?
Well, right now they're not able to answer any calls at all because they're not out there. But even when they were out there, they had limited resources. And I can tell you that I've met with many people out from the rural area or from the other side of the county, and that's a concern that they had. How are we going to be able to facilitate that? And those are the things that are going to be challenging, but I think we can overcome them. And again, it's about how you build a core leadership. I'm going to give you a perfect example. When Chief Garrett wanted me to start a gang unit, okay, he wanted me to start a gang unit. He didn't choose anybody else except me. I went to Austin PD and I wrote with those guys for 2 weeks. I brought back all their operational procedures, all their policies, and I brought them back. Okay? When I brought them back, the chief told me, now you can choose only 3 people to start the gang unit. And he gave me 3 people only. One of those guys he's an assistant chief now, Todd Green. Okay? So I had 3 people to start this gang unit. The city of Corpus Christi at that time had about 270,000 people for a 3-man unit. You know what I did, Eric? I went to the sheriff, I went to constables, and what I did is I asked for their help. I didn't call them. I went to their office and asked, hey, I need your help. This community needs your help. So what I did is every Thursday, every Friday, and every Saturday. Those are the 3 of the most productive days that our units need to be out there. If you don't know anything about a gang unit, an officer can't ride by himself because you're stopping guys who most likely have weapons. Okay, so we have to double them up. And we only had 3 officers. And that's all he would give me. So what I did is I went to 2 constables and a sheriff, and they gave me a guy, 3 guys every single day from Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And we doubled up our protection. We doubled up from having only 3 officers to 6 officers. And it was such a good program that the chief goes, you know what, I'm going to give you another 2. So now we have 5, and then we doubled them up again with deputies from the constables or from the sheriff's office. It can be done. It can be done. And that's what I know how to do. I can reach out to the other side and I can work with them. Look, when I walk in to a constable's office or another chief of police, I leave my ego at the door. We're equal. And the best thing that I can offer is, how can I help them? What can we do for the citizens of Nueces County? And in that case, what can we do for those constables in their precincts? And it isn't about me or was it about CCPD? It's about how can we help the citizens? And that's what I'm all about, Eric. It's about helping.
Good. Now, in your opinion, what is the most important skill a Nueces County Sheriff should have?
Oh, that's easy. Any leader in law enforcement right now, and I don't care if you're from Timbuktu, Oklahoma, where you have only the chief of police, or you go to New York City. It doesn't matter. The number one skill that a law enforcement leader must have, should have, is communication. But I will stop you right there. People are thinking, well, he must be a good speaker. No, that's only 50%. The other 50% is to be a good listener and to go to the people, take their phone, go out to the events and talk to people, ask them, how can we help you? What's going on? That is a very important skill. And also internally, listening to the officers, Eric, because some of the best leaders that we have in that organization are not the captains and not the lieutenants, but it's the line officers, because they do their work day in and day out on a daily basis. They know exactly what tools they need. They know exactly what they don't need and what works. So usually when I look at an organization, sometimes the line officers are the best leaders.
Now, how would you work to keep the Nueces County Sheriff's Office transparent to the public?
Well, that's very easy, because I think that there's a lot of reports that are coming out now that I think they're mandated by the state. You know, they go to the state and people have to look and do a public information request from the state. That in itself is a journey. I don't mind posting stuff up in our website. Right now, there's a report that they must do for the previous month of how many assaults they've had, how many sexual assaults, this, that, everything is in there, and then they send it over to the state in Austin for the regulations. But again, what I would do is I would just post it here locally. I would post it in our website. And one of the items that I want to do also, just to make it more transparent, is I would like to have the opportunity, and I'm going to kick it around, is that I think that the sheriff, if I'm blessed to get elected, one of the things I want to do is I want to bring in an advisory group of 6 citizens. I want to have 3 Republicans and 3 Democrats. And these are leaders in the community. Okay, this stuff about polarization about our law enforcement is of no value. I've told you before in our other interviews and people that I've talked to, is that as law enforcement officers, we go to homes all the time. They never stop us at the door and tell us, hey, before you come in, Officer Torres, are you Republican or Democrat? That never happens. Never. It's always, come and help me. We need help. Okay, so that's what we're forgetting. And that's law enforcement throughout the United States. Okay, not only in this community. So that's one of the things I want to do, is to be more transparent, is I want to have at least an advisory group of 6 people, and it can be a temporary advisory group, because I want them to help me prioritize some of the changes that this organization is going to go through. And we want to give some orientation to these 6 individuals that want to serve, individuals that want to learn about the sheriff's office, and for them to help me and our command staff go through prioritizing some of the changes that we got to do. Because if I'm in there, I'm telling you, we're going to reform the sheriff's office.
Well, speaking about Democrat and Republican, I think there is a stark divide between this program 287G. Can you tell us or educate what would you like to see about 287G program, which has to do with a lot of illegal immigrants coming to the country?
Yeah, the 287G is, it started a long time ago. I think it started under a Democratic president, in fact, but it started up again. It's one of the things you got to look at it. It's only 25 or 24 counties applied here in Texas out of the 254 counties. There's a reason why, because it could be counterproductive, okay, in reference to money. Now, I do not have that information in front of me. That would be something for you to ask the sheriff. Is this program working? Is this, how many people are you working with? How much overtime? Because they don't pay. If what I understand from the government is they don't pay for overtime. They don't pay for travel. They don't pay for training. We must absorb that. And those are the things that I don't mind doing that. But we have to look at every single program in the sheriff's office. Is it viable? Is it helping the citizens? And I want to tell everybody that is viewing this program that there's three principles that everything that I do, everything that this department will do will be on three principles, and principles never change. Principle number one to me is going to be the protection and serving of the community. Number one. Number two is going to be the protection and development of employees. Development of employees. Number three is the protecting and the humane treatment of inmates. Everything that our organization will do and will do in the future will always have one of those three principles. It will never change under me.
Now, how do you plan to keep the Nueces County Jail safe if you were to be elected Nueces County Sheriff?
And safe in reference to what?
Well, I'm sorry. How would you keep it sanitized? How would you keep the inmates from, getting out of hand inside the jail? Because a lot of parents and family members have, friends and family inside the Nueces County Jail, and they're concerned sometimes for their safety.
Are you concerned with safety of the COVID or just overall safety? What are you asking?
Well, I guess you could say, as far as the violence that goes on in the Nueces County Jail.
Well, it goes to one of the principles I have. Number three, protecting and humane treatment of inmates. You must, that's what they're there. They're somebody's brother, somebody's father, somebody's son or daughter. And we have to treat them in a humane way. And, those are what some of the things that we're looking at. Proper staffing is going to be very important. Proper staffing is going to be very important. So those are the things that we're going to be looking at.
Now, do you have any type of relationship with the current sheriff, J.C. Hooper?
Well, the relationship I had is that, that's a good question. Relationship I don't, but we used to work together. He used to work under my command at CCPD when I was in uniform. He was one of 27 lieutenants that I had working for me. So that's why I always tell you that I got the experience because, I had 28 lieutenants working for me. I had about 5 captains working for me. I had about 300 officers working for me and about 150 civilians. The civilians came from the crossing guards. So I'm very familiar, as a sheriff and as a commander in uniform. You're gonna be hit 1,000 times a day from different directions, all at one time. And you must know how to prioritize things, and you must have your set principles. What are the things you're gonna do and not do are set in those principles, because principles, Eric, never change. And I always remember that. So those are the things that we must do. Mm-hmm.
In your opinion, what do you feel that some of the inmates, what kind of programs would you like to implement as far as for the inmates go? Because I know that there's really not too many programs like parent education programs or
well, those are the things that I've been looking at. I've gone, as I was preparing myself to make this run, I went to different counties and I looked at different programs from different other counties. And one of the things that I was looking at is that millions of dollars that are left on the table and we don't take advantage of. One of them, there's federal programs that are there for us to the taking. And one particular one, there's probably 712 localities in the United States that take in millions, if not billions of dollars to help them train and reskill and retool and relearn some of the skills for the inmates. A lot of people don't understand is that, our facility is a temporary facility. Okay.
Are you talking about the main jail?
Yeah, the main jail. You're going to be. Some of these people are waiting to be going to trial, and they can't get out because they're on they can't afford to get out. There's another a section that are waiting to go to prison, and then there's another ones that have been given county time. Okay, so these people are coming out. 2/3 of these people, this population, is going to hit our streets at any given time. So we have to work and see how we can affect it. How can we change the trajectory of recidivism? Is it high? Is it low? Can you give me Can you give me the amount? No. I've already contacted some university professors. They're willing to come and help us for free and go, you know what? This is your actual recidivism rate. We don't know it. We can just estimate this is a state rate and this is the federal rate. What is the local rate? Do you know it? Eric?
No, I don't.
I don't know it either, and I'm very well schooled in that, and I don't know it.
Right, that's a great question.
That is a great question. Remember, before you answer something, you find a solution. You gotta define the problem.
Right.
And that's what we're trying to do.
There does seem to be a revolving door,
of course,
going on in Nueces County.
Oh yeah.
But just to look at more in depth of the issue that's going on right now, which is the pandemic.
Correct.
And a lot of those guys out there in the county jail, they're innocent till proven guilty.
That is correct.
And how would you help stop the spread in the Nueces County? If you were sheriff right now, how would you stop that spread? Would you be willing to release them inmates? Would you be no? Well, let's just keep everybody in the county jail.
Well, I think there's some populations that I cannot furlough, I cannot release, and those are going to be anytime you hurt a child, anytime you do an act of violence on a woman or an elderly person or another person. I don't believe we should be furloughing or PRing any of these individuals. I'm a law enforcement officer first. I'm a law and order guy, and I can tell you right now that really makes me sick to the stomach to think that I have to furlough a person that has committed a sexual assault on a child, or has beaten an elderly person. I can't stomach that. There's no way. We will find a way to keep those people in there. They have a high bond probably, and good for the judge to do that. Sees them as a threat, because remember, they go through a bond reduction, and you got people from the probation and looking at them and doing an assessment, and there must be a reason why there's a high bond. And I'm not going to go against the judges, but there is some low-level offenders that we might be able to get out. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you that that's not the case, but I will tell you that when I'm looking at keeping somebody who has acted in a violent way against one of our people in Nueces County, no matter who it is, that goes to one of the principles I just told you: protecting and serving the public. Why? I'm telling you, everything we're going to do is involved with those three principles, Eric.
That's a great platform. Now, in your opinion, what do you vision the Nueces County to be like in the future? Do you see it, being overcrowded? Because there used to be an overcrowding issue. Now they seem to release many people.
Well, right now I think it's going down because of the COVID. I think that's a good thing. My deal to you is that the county jail is going to always be at capacity or almost capacity. My situation is that I'm a law enforcement officer. I'm a law and order person. There is some crime that we shouldn't, we should put them in and get them out. But I'm telling you, if you are a violent person, you're using a weapon of any kind to hurt somebody in this community, I'll have a bed for you.
That's great. Yeah. Now it's good to know that there is a sheriff that sticks to the
principles.
The principles.
Yes.
And so it seems like there's a lot of people that have been released into the community. Do you feel that's a community threat right now with a lot of people that have to
Well, on a day, I think on a weekly basis, you're looking at about 120 to 150 people being released just normally on a normal setting. I mean, that's just business. It's just the way it goes, but it's just, there's some people that are going to make their bond, some people are not going to make it.
Speaking about bonds, sheriffs do have some type of authority in changing or reforming bonds. Have you looked in depth into the bond reform?
No, I have not. I have been looking more into what I'm going to be tackling when I get there. And there's 3 things that I'm going to be tackling come January. And that's going to be, I really think that the COVID is going to still be raging until we find a vaccine, a viable vaccine. It's going to be into next year. So you need to contain it once you have it in there. You need to protect the correctional officers and their families. See, people are forgetting to do that. That's a 1+1. I mean, officers are going to the correctional officers are spending 12 hours in a confined area with the same ventilation, and then they're going to their families. We should be taking care of that.
Okay. Now, is there anything else that you like to ask?
Well, it's real funny that you asked me. Is that the last question, right? Good.
We've got about 3 minutes.
Okay. Well, one of the last questions. I mean, I saw you last week, and you asked me if I wanted the questions.
Yeah.
If you wanted to write the questions for me that you were going to ask me, and what did I tell you? No, I don't want them, because I want you to ask me anything you want, because it comes from my heart, and it comes from the experience that I have. Then you told me that it was kind of funny because the sheriff wanted the questions a week ago.
Yeah.
So did you have an opportunity to give him the questions?
I gave him the questions.
Oh, okay. And well, good.
He wanted to see you go first since he was the incumbent.
I have no problem with that. Yeah. But I wanted to tell you that you can ask me anything you want.
Right.
I go to restaurants 3 or 4 times a day. People come up to me and they ask me tough questions. I recently had an engineer that asked me some questions, and you know what? He came loaded. But you know what? I answered, and he said, "You know what? You know your stuff." So I know. Not that I'm the smartest guy in the room, Eric, but I'm battle tested, and I can do this job. And that's the bottom line. I will never take your questions because that's not fair. What? I'm going to study for a week so I can answer? No. And I don't care if it's Channel 3, Channel 6, anybody, they can come and ask me. I'll be ready to answer. I don't need the questions.
Has the media reached out to you?
There's a couple of times that have reached out to me, yes.
Okay. And, that's basically summing up the Política Talk. But if you want a hard question, we have about a minute and a half, and I'll get it to you. So just to get deep down into the politics, how do you feel about Jim Kalin, the former Nueces County Sheriff, stepping in, kind of helping out Mr. J.C. Hooper?
Well, it's been rumored that he does that, but it's common. Look, he was the sheriff there for a while, and he was part of the selection of Hooper. I have no problem with it. I have no problem with it. I like Hooper. Hooper, like I said, had worked for me before. It's not a problem. I don't see it as an issue. I don't.
Any last words? You got 30 seconds.
Just remember that the most important election is coming up for this community and for this country, and it's going to be, the governor has given us 4 more days of early voting, and it starts on October the 13th. You must voice your opinion. Your vote is your action. Your vote is your say-so for your family, for everybody.
David Torres, thank you for joining us on Política Talk.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
We'll see you next time.
You got it, sir.
Bye-bye.